Chapter 6. My College Years. I entered Bowdoin College as a freshman in the fall of 1951. My assigned roommate was Peter Foreman from Rockville Center, Long Island, New York. We hit it off immediately and have become lifelong friends. Fraternities were still in vogue at Bowdoin at the time of my 4-year tenure there, and I pledged the Alpha Rho Upsilon, ARU, which stood for All Races United, fraternity. It was primarily the Jewish fraternity, but several of the brothers were non-Jews. As a freshman, I had to wear a beanie and offer a light to any upperclassmen that asked for one. Many of the students smoked at that time, and freshmen had to have matches with them at all times. I was voted into the fraternity along with Pete Foreman, Dave Weiss, Jerry Gracie, Ted Howe, Bobby Burns, Jim Murray, Norm Jepsky, Joe Rooks, Elliot Pillay, John Pritsalis, Sam Levy, Neil Alter, Bernie Passman, and Marv Cates. I found my studies difficult, and for the first time in my life, I felt intellectually challenged. The truth is that I was not ready for college and still a bit immature to realize the importance of good grades and a college education. My energies during those first few years of college were spent more on interfraternity athletics and house parties and less on serious study. My mediocre grades gave testimony to this fact. I joined the ROTC unit at Bowdoin and studied military science and tactics and marched in uniform every Monday afternoon. My second year, I roomed with Dave Weiss from Yonkers, New York. We became fast, lifelong friends. Dave and I were the house managers for the ARU fraternity house. Our duties were to wash the diner dishes and after everyone went to bed to wash the floors and clean the house. This often kept me up to the wee hours of the morning, but I received free room and board for my efforts. By the middle of my junior year, I finally understood why I was at college and became more serious about my studies. I finally made the dean's list that year. ARU also won the Interfraternity Football Championship that year by beating our arch rivals, the Kappa Sigs and Sigma Nu teams. I was elected to the All-Fraternity All-Star team. ARU not only excelled athletically that year, but we won the coveted Pusinian Cup, which was awarded to the fraternity with the highest academic average. The highlights of our college social activities were the winter and Ivy weekend house parties. We'd invite our dates up to Bowdoin and turn over the fraternity house to them while we all moved out to the dorms. Sometimes we boarded our dates at Mrs. Weatherby's in town. She ran a respectable rooming house. Early in my freshman year, Lou Schwartz invited several of the brothers to his home in Portland for a party. It was at this party that I first really met Diana Guerin. We talked about the letters we had exchanged and were very much attracted to each other. By the end of the evening, we had shared our first kiss. Subsequently, I invited Diana to several college weekends, and at one winter party weekend, she was elected Winter House Party Queen for the entire college. Each fraternity, there were 13 on campus, selected a queen of their fraternity. Those selected then competed for the queen of the entire college, the fairest among the fair. Diana won. It was a most exciting moment for her and for me and all members of Alpha Rho Upsilon. She was crowned at the big dance before the entire celebrating student body. After the dance, we made the rounds of the different frat houses where each house had a band and a bar. Beer and booze flowed freely everywhere, and we had our share in moderation. After we went house hopping, we returned to the ARU house and went to the makeout room, which was off the bar room in the cellar. There were several old couches and stuffed chairs there, and we settled into an unoccupied chair and made out. This consisted mostly of kissing and petting. The makeout room was dark, with only a little light filtering in from the bar. Winter house parties took place in the middle of the winter when it was usually quite cold and the campus was blanketed with snow. It was a welcome break from our studies and arduous academic schedules. In the late spring, we had our Ivy weekend, and in addition to the dance and house hopping, we all went to Popham Beach for sand, sun, swimming, and a huge lobster dinner, which we cooked in a large pot full of seaweed and ocean water. We bought live lobsters from lobstermen who were just bringing in their daily catch, and soon these lobsters found their way into the boiling pot on the fire in the middle of the beach. As you can imagine, we enjoyed a fantastic feast. My summers during my college years were spent as a counselor at Camp Cobbossee on Lake Cobbassaconte near Winthrop, Maine. On my days off, I'd go to Naples, Maine, where Diana was a counselor at nearby Camp Sunningdale. We were growing very fond of one another and saw each other as often as possible. During the summer between my junior and senior years, I attended a different kind of summer camp. It was my ROTC 6 weeks of training at Fort Eustis, Virginia. We lived in a barracks, which we spent a great deal of time scrubbing and washing the latrine. Our training consisted of long marches in the hot sun and days on the rifle range. This summer was just a preview of being commissioned as a second lieutenant at my college graduation and returning to Fort Eustis for the training as a transportation officer prior to my being assigned to the 98th Transportation Company outside of Bordeaux, France. But more about that later. Throughout my 4 years of college, I used to go to Portland and later to Clark University to see Diana. One of the more memorable evenings I experienced was when I went to Portland and Diana and I decided to go to an early movie. She was babysitting for her younger brother Jerry at the time. She asked the women who lived upstairs from their apartment at 13 Codman Street to watch Jerry while we went out for a few hours. We arrived back from the movie in the early evening about 9 p.m. Waiting for us in his pajamas was Diana's father, Harry, and he was furious. With hands on hips, he yelled at Diana for leaving her brother and then turned his wrath on me, shouting that there are some things you don't learn in books and essentially, get out of my house. I was devastated and Diana was in tears as I left. Back at Bowdoin, I wrote a letter of apology to Mr. Guerin the following day and was so upset that I flunked my history exam. Mr. Guerin, much to my surprise, responded to my letter and invited me to come to his home and see Diana again if I so desired. I did continue to see Diana and also built a nice relationship with my future father-in-law, Harry, and mother-in-law, Shirley Guerin. Harry would often let me use his car on dates with Diana, and I appreciated this muchly. In the early 1950s, the Guerins had a small log cottage on Little Sebago Lake in Gray, Maine. On my days off, I'd visit them and take Diana for rowboat rides on the lake. It was idyllic. After we were married, Diana and I stayed one night at the Guerin cottage. The walls extended up about 6 feet, and there were no ceilings on the rooms. All the bedrooms, there were 3, were far less than private, as every sound made could be heard over and through the short walls and ceilingless rooms. Diana and I behaved that night, but her younger brother Jerry rocked back and forth in his squeaky bed. It was hard to tell where the rocking sound was coming from, and Diana and I were mortified that her folks would think it emanated from our room. Diana and I were becoming quite serious with one another, but she had 2 more years of college at Clark University, and I was leaving for a 2-year tour of duty in the Army shortly after my graduation from Bowdoin. We agreed that each could date others, and after my Army stint, if we still felt the same way about each other, we could take it from there. So I went off to the Army and a tour of duty in France while Diana finished her last 2 years at Clark and enjoyed the social life of the college as well as its academic advantages. She was elected to Phi Beta Kappa in her junior year. She majored in art and graduated with honors.